About what we could put as a clickbait title, if you will. And part of the realization that I had while trying to come up with that is, do we really need a clickbait title for the ones that pay attention, for the ones that are, following along of what's going for the sake of just purely passion than nothing else? And I feel we've got a pretty good group of people that we've been hanging out with. So first of all, thank you so much for joining. Second of all, we're still catching up on the previous week from being sick. So with that, let's take a look. So Kieran from Illuvium, if you've noticed over the past 24 hours on the timeline, Illuvium has gotten a little bit of a, ragdoll situation where people are kind of bashing them while saying, hey, you know what, like they're running out of runway, there's this, that, and the other thing. People are looking and finding like what their treasuries hold. And I think we forget just the fact that we don't know what can happen for anything, right? Like we've had situations within like Featureverse and a lot of other game studios where they straight up shut down. We have other instances where they've gotten hit from massive situations like the FTX debacle, and they're still able to continue onward. I think Star Atlas was maybe the biggest collection that was affected by that back in the day. But you never know. And the market's looking kind of dreary right now. But at the same time, we've been covering a lot of major developments. Now, obviously, I'm not necessarily working directly within any kind of like gaming company. So do I know the ins and outs of it? No. But we can look and see what some of the other ones are. So Illuvium's founder saying, going to be a lot of games looking to raise to survive next year. Puts the VCs in an interesting spot. One standout title that does enter mainstream and gets generating Pal World type revenue will no doubt boost the entire gaming category up, probably much higher than what that single game does for the investors. That's something to note too. We keep saying, hey, once there's a certain game or genre or whatever, we'll see an interest, and we've just not really had that happen at all. So what do you do? My take is that there will be deployments, but only into games that have a clear path to revenue. The only thing in this market that is moving the needle is actual product revenue. Speculation is gone. Good luck out there. And we have seen where every day we talk about token buybacks, we talk about how the revenue discussion is becoming more and more front and center, as well as numbers, which were fudged a lot, I think, over the past years for certain companies. But Robbie Ferguson being the perma bull as usual, the entire Web3 gaming industry has 7 million users. Roblox, a single Web2 game, has 380 million users. We'll compare that to 7. That's a lot. We're still so early, it's not even funny. Do you recall at points when teams used to say, hey, we're building something with Fortnite, we're doing something with Roblox, and then it was just like they built kind of an experience within there. Objectively hilarious that Mark Zuckerberg was so swept up in the metaverse FOMO that he literally changed his company name to Meta. Remember the FOMO around everything metaverse related? That actually might be like the Pico change where the whole company was named after it. And I don't know if is Facebook, Meta, whatever, even doing anything right now? I recall they had a video that was like Mark Zuckerberg walking through, like traversing these experiences. They were saying like, for the VR headsets, it's going to be the next big thing. And then the Apple headset comes out. It's hot for like a day, maybe a week, and then nobody's discussed it since. Nobody talks about the Meta Quest. Nobody talks about VR at all. Is that the thing to be paying attention to? Drew Austin, just bringing up a fact for some of the online trading card games from the Pokemon TCG for like the Pocket one, NBA Top Shot, Courtyard, where there's tokenized slabs, saying the kids just call it digital packs. Why the hell do we call anything NFTs? Just call it digital packs. Would you remember Crypto Zoo? You remember Crypto Zoo? Well, apparently Logan Paul is officially off the hook for the debacle around Crypto Zoo.
Some good news. The Crypto Zoo class action lawsuit against me got officially dismissed, which is a pretty big deal. The timing of this was insane. The ruling came literally as Nina was walking down the aisle. And this week, the district judge approved it. So, yeah, this is pretty significant for me just because I've been on this pursuit to try to clear my name and unwind years of this fake scammer reputational damage narrative that got spun up. And so this is like a good first step in that. And
so for anyone that doesn't know, basically there was the collection called Crypto Zoo that was promoted by Logan Paul. Now, something we have seen across the space is people that have studios that have the skills that try to reach out and saying, hey, you know what, we have the ability to make whatever you're looking for. Let's work together. Well, you're kind of like the mouthpiece for it. And obviously CoffeeZilla did huge videos breaking down all of this. Logan Paul trying to say, hey, like there's all these other people that like kind of swindled me, almost like the Hawk Tua situation, right? Even though everybody's saying before the launch, hey, maybe it's a good idea like not to do this, then they go through with it anyway. But interesting that segment seems to be going away. Apparently, decentralized finance will win, at least says some smart individuals. Let's see what they have to say.
We are going to end today's session by standing in the front of the stage, an opportunity for pictures, but I want to give these gentlemen an opportunity for brief final thoughts, if any, either what's next for Chainlink and Aave generally, or any kind of call to action you have for those viewing in the audience or at home.
Yeah, I just have one thing to say, and that's DeFi will win. That's what I was going to say.
DeFi will win. My name is Aaron at Altcoin Daily. Look me up on YouTube. Check out Chainlink.
Okay, so they just copied each other. Phenomenal. But what else was in that discussion? This part in particular, take a listen to what he has to say.
That will 10x DeFi overnight. So the thing that I think isn't fully clear to people yet, because it hasn't happened yet, but I'm a big believer in, is that DeFi, will continue to do permissionless innovation. It'll continue to invent new stuff, great stuff. Like mind-blowing cool stuff, which I'm a big fan of, and we're all a big fan of. But then the capital into that stuff will come from these institutions because their clients have all the money. They do. It's all the world's money in these institutions held by the clients, and the institution services the clients, right? And so the clients are going to say like, oh, wow, look, I can get 8% on the US dollar in DeFi. Let me make this percentage of my treasuries convert to DeFi. I mean, that's unbelievable. That will 10x DeFi overnight if that happens.
So is it not nuts that we have so many individuals? Now, granted, we could say they might be wrong, sure. But there's so much optimism around what the future is, and clearly we've gone through ups and downs and people trying stuff and failing miserably and everything under the sun. But when it's presented in like a certain way, it's like, all right, it's kind of just a matter of time thing. You guys ever play Halo? Here's the person that does the voice for it.
That's it. I wanted to.
Okay, guys, j'ai rencontré le gars qui fait les voix de Halo.
What would you like me to say?
Anything actually.
Okay.
Anything that you feel like doing. So
Okay.
here's the man.
Great.
Well, hey there. It's Jeff Steitzer, the voice of God multiplayer announcer for the game Halo. You know I'm that guy that says double kill, triple kill, killing spree, Kilimanjaro. Hail to the king.
There's no.
Not bad at all, eh? Kind of funny when you see the voice behind some of the more notable things within video game history like that. GB Australia, what's up? 10x DeFi, wouldn't the new money put into DeFi flood the market and drop the interest? ABOI, yes, I believe so. But at the same time, if more comes on chain, does that make more opportunities elsewhere? People more comfortable? Does the yield get better in some sort of fashion? Does it just get worse? Yet to be seen, but yes, I agree with you. It's a very, very valid point. But currently, get 10x allegedly. So Claynosaurs. When we talk about collections that have done things well, when we talk about things that have not done well, if I just go into this and show up Claynosaurs right quick, because I feel we need to kind of show what it is. So a little bit of a sort of fun characteristics. If you want to say this is somewhat like Land Before Time back in the day, they've got a lot of high quality animations. They're working on a game. The studio seems uber legit across the board, right? So here's what they had to say regarding their token.
What we're going to do, what we're working towards is having that Clay token represent real equity inside of the Clanosaurus company. And that's, you got to go over regulatory hurdles. You've got to go over all these different distribution things. So we're working on those things, right? In order to confer that value back to them because we think they're valuable. And by the way, it's not in return for money. This is fan contributions, right? We have an achievement system that measures, your collections, but it also measures, what you've received at events, and also collecting 200 floor price, Clanos is not the same as building a herd. And we're measuring collector and fan value, right? So the biggest holder of Clanosaurs in the absolute sense is not the number one person on the achievement system. It's the person who's got the herds and shows up at events, and it's the guy who's got all of these things.
So the biggest takeaway from reading that, or listening to that, is that we are having a very noticeable pivot across the teams that have collectibles, where the focus is completely gone on anything speculative, because we already know that that's kind of, gone, where Kieran Warwick said that at the beginning that we went over. But we have Good Vibes Club, who's doing the badges, and they're focusing on that collector aspect. We're seeing Clanosaurs, who's highlighting, hey, the people that are like the big shots are the ones that are coming to events that have this, where collectors matter. And yesterday, we had a discussion with Derek Snook, if you want to go check back on that live stream, where he's really into Candy Digital and buying some rather expensive Major League Baseball moments that are like one of ones, and he breaks down his rationales, his comparisons. I was just sitting there kind of gobsmacked of like, holy crap, okay, so barring everything goes right within that sense, I think you're onto something. But it's also the acceptance of digital collectibles, and it's going to look very, very different across the board. But I would make the argument that if there's somebody new looking at these digital collectibles, it almost feels like the Good Vibes Club and, after hearing what's going on with Clanosaurs, is, okay, there's some kind of depth that you're able to discuss with people or show, hey, here's a little bit more to that. And did you notice as well, Cryptoys, they're going over to Abstract. So Cryptoys, we're excited to announce that Cryptoys is officially coming to Abstract Chain, the world's biggest brands, the world's most iconic characters, and then Luke and Nets chiming in saying Disney IP is making its way to Abstract. Ethereum's culture layer keeps growing. So I saw this all over the timeline, and I'm like, okay, so number one, very, very cool that is going to Abstract, but number two, it's interesting watching this because like I had one of like the original Cryptoys. There was like these pixelated Cryptoys classics. And if anyone was in NBA Top Shot way back in the day, it was like a somewhat notable collection. And there was a community that formed, but it felt like it just wasn't really like taking off the right way. And if you scroll back through or type in on YouTube, you'll be able to find an interview that I did with the team way back when. But it's like everybody's so hyped up about this collection now, and is it just because that it moved to Abstract? And is that something maybe to pay attention to for anything that is on like a scale of, if there is a community here, we could use the Candy Digital perspective, right? Obviously that's over with like the Root Network, and that clearly didn't work the way that they wanted. But if something like that moves to Abstract, does it suddenly get a lot more interest? If it moves to Ronin, whatever it is, right? We don't know where these IPs and things are going to go, but we've talked about having a chain war of sorts where I was expecting to see a lot more mergers and acquisitions and people kind of switching chains. Feels like that's not really happened the way that I thought, because this is one of the first things that I'm seeing around that. Introducing the Agentic Fund of Funds by Butler, the fastest way to find and earn yield across DeFi, optimized and managed by Butler Agent every second. So again, the Butler Agent is an account that you're able to direct message, and it's on base, and you can just like type different things and it will actually go and do it. So when we see these AIs actually start taking money and being able to do whatever with it, it's nuts, because basically it goes out and finds the best yield. And so GB Australia, when we were talking about like DeFi 10xing overnight, do we see those major funds that come into the space and they manage all of it themselves, or potentially they go and try to use one of these AI agents that are out there? And that's something that's starting more. Now, at the launch of Other Side, we're seeing all these different collections highlighting who's going to be a part of that. And Cool Cat's getting a little bit of a nod. So if you've been out playing within Other Side, know that you can act as a Cool Cat within that world, which is very, very neat. We've seen a lot of positivity around that, and that's what a Cool Cat looks like directly inside the metaverse. A little bit from Kevin O'Leary.
I love the idea of innovation. The money center banks have been sitting on their hands for years, crapping on the crypto industry, but it's not about Bitcoin. Nothing to do with Bitcoin. It's digital payment systems. That's the potential. That's the amazing opportunity we have here. Now, the reason that will be important and why we'll get price appreciation on Bitcoin is the minute that happens, it will signal the move to the next act, the Market Infrastructure Act. And why that matters to everybody in this room is we will finally determine, is Bitcoin a commodity or a security? And when that is determined and regulated, Katie bar the doors, $1 trillion will come and index that asset.
They're saying $1 trillion coming in. We got 10x overnight from the individual a little bit earlier. But the opening statement from Kevin O'Leary was talking about fast payments. And Big Belly Daddy here saying, spent 45 minutes at my bank trying to wire money to another bank for a higher interest account. Got charged $30 and had to do it before the cutoff time. Makes you realize how great crypto is. Instant transfer, no fees, no questions, no BS. Bum, bum, bum. I don't know. A lot of positive headlines, eh? Yo, Paul saying, what's up? New to ApeChain, not DeFi. Where do I get started? That is a phenomenal question. See, that's one of the biggest problems within this space. I love that, even though I know you're going to go on a tangent here, right? But like, if you want to get into sports collecting, right? You have to go around and you got to figure out, okay, there's like X amount of ones out there. What sport do I want? What network? How do I get funds on said network? A lot of times you can just upload fiat. You want to do something with an ape chain. Well, how are you going to do that? And like my first thought, right, is you like go on OpenSea and then you look at these different like NFTs under the banner, right, for ApeChain. And then it's like, okay, you see those, they cost something. How can you do something without spending? And it's like with everything in life where you have to pay for it. Why is it that there's almost nothing you can do for free on like crypto rails right now? It's a weird thought to think about. Now, this is also a weird thought, and just it goes to show how ridiculous the space is. In like kind of a funny way. This is somewhat humorous, except for the people that got kind of like baited on this. So TokenWorks has been doing these different drops of having a token that basically accrues fees and then buys an NFT, lists it higher, and then if that sells, it uses the fund to buy back the token. So TokenWorks announces this Nakamoto strategy, and it's for these cards that I think there's like 100 of them. It's like really old, but they're going for an insane amount of money. But with the name Nakamoto, there's these collections called Nakamigo. I don't know who didn't get the message, but I guess a bunch of people read that Nakamoto is Nakamigo. So they went out and they just swept the hell out of the collection, thinking they were getting a strategy token. And then they found out that that was not the case, and then it dumped really hard. The wildest things you see within the space. Robinhood CEO Vlad Tenev, what does he got for us?
Related products and revenue have been an important part of Robinhood's growth story. What are your thoughts on adopting Bitcoin or other digital assets as part of your corporate treasury strategy?
Shiv, what do you think about that one?
So we spent a lot of time thinking about this. We like alignment with the community. We are a big player in crypto. We want to keep doing it. We like that our customers are engaged in it. What we always try to figure out is it the right thing for shareholders as well? If you put it on your balance sheet, it has the positives in that you're aligned with the community, but it does take up capital. Our shareholders can also go and buy Bitcoin directly on Robinhood, and so are we making that decision for them. And is it the best use of our capital? There's a lot of different things you're doing, from new products for growth, investing in engineering. So we have this debate constantly. And I think the short answer is we're still thinking about it. There's pros and cons to both of it. And it's one that we're going to keep actively looking at.
Cryptocurrency related products and
they're thinking about it. Okay. What else are we going to think about?
That said, what we look at is our market share. And we know that, even though trading volumes can go with markets and can go up and down, long term, we're huge beneficiaries of both the growth in the US economy and also the generational wealth transfer, where north of 100 trillion of assets and wealth is going to be handed down from older generations to younger generations. These younger generations are folks that are digitally native, tech savvy. They don't particularly want to do their finances at brick and mortar institutions in person, and they really value user experience and cost. And so I think we track our market share, which has been growing pretty much across the board.
But the big takeaway within that was, what was it? 100 trillion of assets, north of 100 trillion, apparently is getting passed down throughout the generations. That is a crazy cuckoo banana pants type of situation. Now, I played this clip before, but don't forget, a lot of legislative talk in the US, everything crypto related. We've got videos of everybody saying, hey, we got like X amount coming in if these things are approved, this, that, the other thing. Here's Brian Armstrong, CEO of Coinbase.
I'm here in Washington, D.C. again, fighting for your rights to try to get some market structure legislation passed for crypto. This would be foundational, just like we did for stablecoins a few months ago with the Genius Act. Market structure legislation protects all the other non-stablecoin crypto assets like Bitcoin and Ethereum. The Senate is strongly supportive of getting this done. The members that I met with on both sides of the aisle are ready to get this legislation passed, and there's draft text now being exchanged back and forth and with the industry for comment, which is great. We saw a lot of alignment today. Now, of course, this hasn't stopped the big banks from trying to throw a wrench into things, and they're trying to ban rewards on stablecoins. The members of the Senate who I spoke to, they're not going to let that happen. That was already litigated and decided in the Genius Act for stablecoins. They're not going to bring it up again. But barring these little details here and there, I think this thing has a good chance of getting done. I've actually never been more bullish on a market structure getting passed. It's a freight train leaving the station. So we're going to keep showing up and fighting for your rights. You can do.
Yeah, it's funny. You log on, right? Check out the social feeds, and it's like doomerism everywhere. Like just worst case situation conversations. And then anytime we're playing videos from like big headline, like has sway in the market, like you bring them to a conference and people will show up and talk, they just all have really positive things to say about what's to come. It's wild. So on Futureverse, with the whole receivership situation, which still waiting to see if there's going to be like any fallout, documentaries, whatever, because that's still the craziest thing I've ever been part of in my life. But they're selling stuff within the office. It looks like stuff's already sold, but like every single item that they could sell, they have been. So Reebok Impact, remember we were like, yo, we got Angel Reese, we got Shaquille O'Neal, we got all these big players on Reebok. They're gonna be highlighting what's going on. We have the AI shoemaking. Well, I guess they had a couple of those within the office they were selling. We got coffee jars. We got Star Wars stuff. We got various video games. We have fluff skateboards. They are literally selling stools and tables out of the office itself. They got a Schmick bar fridge, 100 assorted black Futureverse caps. They are selling the literal monitors of the office. Again, what an absolute horror show all of that was. Still hoping that we get some kind of like clarification, because yeah, they're selling Catan for $45. They have the posters. They got Ready Player One signed poster. They have amplifiers, headphones, just bonkers. And then Netflix, Stranger Things. Yo, it's coming out. Take a look at that. Way back in the day, for anybody that's been a fan of Stranger Things. Final season coming to a head. Holy smokes, is it weird watching people grow up. Now imagine you're a big fan of Stranger Things, right? And you go to one of like their in-person events and you're not expecting anything. And then this happens.
Stay together. Dr. Shiner will be administering the stress test And it would be in your best interest to follow.
Alex! Why are you frightening our guests?
Sorry, sir.
Alex seems to be having a bad day. The doctor will be here at any moment, so everyone just relax. Yes? Relax. Everything.
Yo, Dr. Brenner from the show, just going to hang out, having an experience, and then you got one of the actors there. Awesome, awesome, awesome. And then in Medicine Hat, not awesome, but the whole Jumbotron just like fell smack dab in the middle of the ice. Holy shiitake mushrooms. Unreal. Glad nobody was injured, but that's going to be it for this edition of X-Feed. Don't forget, we did do the RWA SegMints podcast this past week with Koji from Parallel. So if you're somebody who's into sci-fi of sorts, the Star Wars, Star Trek, futuristic world, if you're wanting to learn a little bit about AI, their TCG and what their plans are for the future and how they've managed to deal with different events, they had a huge esports tournament and the internet went out during that. How they resolve it, all of that in the podcast you can find in the link in the description below if you're on YouTube or if you're over on X. It's in my bio, or if you type in RWA SegMints Podcast on any podcasting platform. Pulse G and Altcoin Talk, I appreciate you coming through. Hope you have an absolutely phenomenal weekend in GP Australia. It's been great seeing you on the past couple of streams. Hope you have a good weekend as well. We'll talk soon, guys. Peace.